hope you're having a great Saturday. This topic is about, I guess, more towards medium to large businesses and companies, corporations, however you'd like to describe them. But it's about their structure and how they actually almost amplify bullying in the workplace through those structures. And that may seem a little strange when I say it out loud, but when I actually explain it, you'll kind of get to see what I'm talking about, I'm hoping. So I'll explain a little bit about what I kind of have observed and how I see the structures in these workplaces. And they essentially are hierarchy based. So there's obviously the bottom rung team members that come in and do most of the work. Then you've got your supervisors, and then you've got your managers on top of that, and then their managers and general managers, and it goes up from there all the way up to the CEO and the managing director and the board and everything anything and everything you can think of. A lot of companies do have those different positions and structures. So essentially how those structures work, they have a set standard that they expect, and then they deliver it down the line, and it essentially then gets flowed right down to the base level team members. And for the most part, if it's done correctly and appropriately, it can be quite an effective method of communication and a structure for a company. But unfortunately, the way it normally happens is it becomes a bit of a dictatorship, and instead of an empowering message going through the teams and the ranks, it actually becomes a bit more of a bully mentality where it's actually you do it or else. And that actually, depending on the managers and the leaders in those spaces, can actually be misconstrued in a way where it comes across in a bullying fashion. And it actually, depending on the structure and how the company, I guess, sets its expectations, the leaders or managers or even supervisors that are put in those positions can almost have to take on a bit more of a severe role than what they would if they had a bit more flexibility to be able to help encourage and manage their team in a different way. And that may seem a little bit weird, but unfortunately I've actually been a part of some of those structures, and my personal style, it has nothing to do with being horrible or mean or yelling at anyone. And unfortunately that was the things that I received from my higher ups, but also the way that the company structure was set up and the way that the discipline structure and I guess even HR involved in the way that the disciplinary process was implemented and expected to be implemented, actually had an element of a bullying behavior. It kind of expected in that way of going through things. So what I'm trying to communicate is, with organizations and medium to large scale businesses, you need to make sure that you're looking into how the company actually works and what their expectations are and how they actually communicate those expectations, because it's really important to actually understand how that is and how that works, because otherwise you may be unknowingly going into a situation that may set you up for workplace bullying in an unknowing capacity, obviously. But it's those companies that maybe don't realize that their structure is actually it's damaging, but it's also has flaws, because by doing it that way, you're not going to engage and motivate your team, even though there are lots of KPIs and other trainings that go into those companies to try and encourage that, they're almost flawed from the start, because the design of their hierarchy and their structure actually kind of works against those other positives that get put in place. And then the structure essentially kind of runs the ship and takes over and has a life of its own, especially when you have people who have a bit more of a penchant of bullying in their behavior. When they get into those sorts of organizations, it kind of tends to get a little bit out of control. So there is a lot of issues out there, but I just wanted to let you know that some structures and some companies have these hierarchies in them, and they're flawed from the start. They're not really set up to have the guest and the team members' best interest at heart. Even if there is good intentions, unfortunately, the setup just doesn't allow for that to happen. But you definitely need to be aware of that when you're going out into the workplace and looking for other jobs, because it's definitely something that you should kind of almost vet your employer before you go on and take a job from them, because it will actually help you in the long run so that you don't get stuck into that workplace bullying situation, because you haven't kind of done your due diligence from your part as a prospective employee. You definitely can interview your employer or have a look around and do some research. So I've definitely encouraged that. But maybe if you are in one of those structures and you can kind of see that the structure is very flawed, then let me know, send me a message. I'd love to connect and chat about it with you. But just be aware that those structures are out there. Those companies are definitely out there. And unfortunately, they do set people up to fail. So I'll leave you with that for tonight, but have a fantastic evening. And I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.